All right, our second speaker of the morning is Mardi Gras Southeast Texas regarding Mardi Gras 2019. Hey, good morning.
Good morning. My name's Tim Romero. I'm the chairman of the board of Mardi Gras. Our address is 3830 Highway 365. With me is Laura Childress. She's our president of the event. And I would like to thank the citizens of Port Arthur for the opportunity to speak on behalf of Mardi Gras of Southeast Texas, and for these remarks to be made part of the public record. The last time we came before council, it was to show solidarity and to emphasize that we felt Mardi Gras needed to be held in 2018. We felt that after Hurricane Harvey, it was important for the show to go on. Well, even after 4 days of torrential rains, the show did go on. Mardi Gras of Southeast Texas feels that it's important to let the council and the citizens of Port Arthur know of several issues which we believe threaten Mardi Gras' future, and to put to rest all the rumors which seem to grow louder each year. First, many people think that the city of Port Arthur is the principal organizing group of Mardi Gras each year and contributes much of the financial resources necessary to run the event. This is not true. Mardi Gras of Southeast Texas began 26 years ago when 18 charitable organizations were approached with the idea of contributing seed money to put on the very first Mardi Gras. These sponsoring organizations, which are all 501c IRS designations, make up the board of Mardi Gras of Southeast Texas. Their decisions put into motion each year is what has become Southeast Texas's premier festival. Mardi Gras receives no money from the city of Port Arthur. In fact, we pay the city in excess of $65,000 each year for the services that the city provides, and we're thankful for those services. Services like police, fire, utilities, and health. Mardi Gras has contributed to projects like the Pavilion and other downtown improvements. We appreciate the partnership and the cooperation that we've had with the city for over the last 26 years. Some have said that Mardi Gras has operated at a deficit for quite some time. Once again, this is not true. Up until 2017, there has not been 1 year that the expenses of operating Mardi Gras have exceeded revenue. In 2018, Mardi Gras did lose considerably more than $100,000, due exclusively to bad weather conditions. However, because of the responsible financial decisions that have been made by our board for the previous 25 years, this loss did not bankrupt us. In fact, we could sustain one, maybe two more such calamities in the future and still survive. It should also be noted that Mardi Gras pays no salaries. We do what we do because we love Mardi Gras, and we know that our efforts benefit our entire community. Some have criticized Mardi Gras for holding such large financial reserves, but I think our strategy has been proven sound. Each year, our board has voted to pay a dividend to our sponsoring organizations. There are 16 now. Remember that these monies, which are returned in the community for diverse services through our members' charitable efforts. There have been times when the board has paid dividends, even if it would constitute a negative balance on the balance sheet. All told, Mardi Gras of Southeast Texas has paid out more than $1.3 million to our sponsoring organizations over the last 26 years. Lastly, Mardi Gras of Southeast Texas is not, let me repeat, is not moving from Port Arthur. For the 27th year, Mardi Gras will be celebrated in downtown Port Arthur, of course, unless the city tells us we can't, which we don't think will happen. As you can see, our board has a vested interest in ensuring that Mardi Gras remains a sustainable event. The board takes this responsibility very seriously. If conditions develop which make that sustainability impossible, then our board has a responsibility to look at alternatives which would guarantee it could continue. We believe there is a condition that has developed which has severely impacted our future sustainability. More and more vendors are setting up outside the Mardi Gras gates. Vendors are selling food, merchandise, and yes, even alcohol. They pay only a $10 health fee if they register, and because their overhead is greatly reduced, these vendors can realize a tidy profit. Inside the gates, our vendors are vetted and inspected and must adhere to city codes to be able to sell, and sales tax is collected. Inside the gates, we check IDs for alcohol, and several of our vendors are TABC approved, certified. Inside, we can ensure the safety of the food that our vendors sell. Inside the gate, vendors cannot cheat patrons without consequence, and we have not had a serious incident with our vendors in 26 years. Inside the gate, revelers can celebrate in complete safety. Inside the gate, the safety and security of each of our patrons is our primary concern. Outside the gate, revelers are not offered these protections. From non-regulated sales of alcohol to food safety to fraud protection to overall security. It is a buyer beware, and we believe that is not fair to the citizens of Port Arthur. Police protection is limited, and the majority of that presence is paid for by Mardi Gras. Our vendors don't think it's fair either. Several of them have decided not to return for future events. If this continues, we know that Mardi Gras will not be sustainable in its present location. We want to continue to partner with the city of Port Arthur. We want to continue to bring Mardi Gras to downtown Port Arthur. Mardi Gras is a major property owner in downtown. So we're asking that the city work with Mardi Gras of Southeast Texas to ensure that we stay downtown where both the city and Mardi Gras have made large investments. We are proposing that the city enact an ordinance that creates an event exclusion zone for all events which take place inside the city limits. In this zone, outside vendors of any kind would be prohibited to operate unless they paid the same vendor fee that all vendors inside the event zone pay. As to the exact boundaries for this zone, we'd like to participate in those discussions. I don't think we need to emphasize the benefits that Mardi Gras brings to Port Arthur. Visitors from all corners of the planet have visited Port Arthur and after attending Mardi Gras left with a positive attitude about the city of Port Arthur. These visitors have stayed in Port Arthur hotels, paid Port Arthur sales tax. I like to call this other people's money, and it's what every city craves and fights for. Unless such a zone is created, we believe that Mardi Gras will not continue to be sustainable in downtown Port Arthur, and Port Arthur could lose the one of its most valued and popular community events. Lastly, our request is not unprecedented. Austin has such an event zone. Houston has such an event zone. Even a small town like DeSoto has an event zone. Probably the one that most coincides with, I think, what we're looking at is that each year when the Super Bowl picks a host city, they go to all the cities, all the communities surrounding it where they will have events, and they ask for a special event zone ordinance. And they do that to protect the public well-being and safety, as well as the NFL trademark. And that's similar to what we're looking at here. We need protection for the citizens, but we also want to protect our investment and our trademark, the name of Mardi Gras. Once more, I'd like to thank you for your time and patience, and we would welcome any questions that you might have.
Mr. Mayor, I have some lights. Well, I don't have any lights now, but I will say thank you guys for everything. Ms. Laura, thank you for coming before us today. Send it on to Mr. Floyd, of course, also. Tell him thank you for everything you guys have done. From our previous meeting, we had talked about possibly getting with some of these property owners that were outside of the gate. Did we move forward with it, or has anyone tried to contact them, or are we?
Well, they are, some of them are not necessarily on private property. They're on the street, curbside.
Okay.
And like your parking zone lane or whatever it might be. They don't actually pull up on a property. Some are rented and are legitimate private parties. We understand those. Mainly what we're talking about is the area that's just immediately outside our gate where you get just a whole line of vendors,
On the street.
curbside or otherwise, and they're right there at our front door.
Yeah.
And so as people are walking in, of course, if they spend $30, $40 right out there, they get to the gate and they don't have the money to get in, or they're unhappy because they have to pay our gate fee. So we're just trying to make it where everybody that wants to come in can come in and not be affected by what might hit them first, kind of like that buyer beware type thing. So that's mostly what we're asking for.
Okay.
To answer your question, no, we've not contacted anybody outside the area. We felt like coming to council was the appropriate thing to do, and then to move forward with instructions from there.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Well, I agree definitely with the curbside that we have to figure that out. In your talk today, it said outside vendors of any kind. Now, I know one thing that a lot of the property owners do also is parking.
Yeah, we don't have a problem with parking.
Okay.
Parking is a necessary thing that Mardi Gras needs. I mean, we have to
Yeah.
have parking. We're talking more about those
Curbside.
cart vendors
Yes, ma'am.
that push carts up and down the street. Years back, Chief Blanton would always run them off. He would check to see if they had a vendor permit, if they didn't. But they've now learned for $10 they can get a permit, and they have access to hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah.
So more concern than that is that party, let's just take Saturday, which is one day out of 4, starts at sometimes 8 o'clock in the morning, 7:30. They get there early to get their spot. And if they're families and they're having parties and they're barbecuing, still no problem. We want those people there. But if they're vendors that are coming out there to sell to those patrons, then that's where it becomes unfair, because my vendors have paid a hefty fee inside. So we're just kind of looking for a level playing field here. We don't want any advantages, just even it out for us,
Yes,
and then
ma'am.
we'll be good.
Okay. Councilman Doucette, light 5.
Okay. I understand what you all do and what you all bring to the city, and a lot of people look forward to it every year. Most cities that handles events on a recurring basis, such as Mardi Gras here, the event zones or areas are always applied. They pass ordinance, so that is not nothing uncommon or unusual. I can understand a vendor not wanting to come to Mardi Gras if they have to pay a fee and a person outside does not have to pay a fee. The other thing is, I understand individuals coming to Mardi Gras and they pass through vendors just to get through the gate. I think the answer would be to establish the event zone. And not only that, I think we need to really take a look at our health inspection, because you mentioned another thing that was very key, and that was the health and safety of people being served food outside the gate. So I think we need to look at ways to make sure that those who are outside of the zone still meet requirements. And I think along with fees, that it should be event fees, because I know in cities like New Orleans, for an example, they have certain events that they know will draw a lot of people, but they establish event fees and don't, like Tulane and LSU plays football every year there, and it's just regular price for hotel, taxi, and everything. However, when the Bayou Classic with Grambling and Southern plays, then it is considered an event because of the number of people it attracts. So everything goes up. I think it's something that we need to take a look at as a city. And I think if we did that, then we can ensure that the food being served to our citizens outside the gate is good and it's passed inspection, that people out there have met the requirements to be out there, and that people out there understand that, they need to pay a fee, not $10, and the person inside paying $400. I'm not in favor of them paying the same, because the people inside the gate have the advantage of having the crowd there to them. But I do believe that the people outside the gate should be paying a fee, that they have to understand that, I don't pay as much, but it still costs me to be here, and there'll be a buffer zone between you all and them. Those are things that I think can help. And I don't think what you're asking is asking too much. I see y'all done y'all homework real well, but it's people who understands and follow it knows that most city that has regular occurring events do have that established. So I look forward to working with council to see, can we work something out that'll be good for Mardi Gras, be good for citizens, and be good for the vendors who do not go inside. But everybody understand that this is supposed to be fun, supposed to be fair, and I above all, I know what you all do with the nonprofits. Yes, I was at St. John's, so we look forward every year to provide some of our parishioners to work Mardi Gras, because the church was given the big check. So we look forward to the check. So, I understand what you all do, and I just think we just need to take a look at it and get in line with what cities do. Okay, thank you for your time.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor Tim, in your presentation. Just real quick, I kind of heard you say something. You said the vendor's fee for someone that's outside the Mardi Gras is $10?
Well, that's the health fee.
That's the health fee, right.
That's
Okay.
what I meant.
Okay, so, and also your buffering zone, your buffering area, how far would you want that to be away from the main gates or any gate that you have?
I think that's something that would need to be discussed with, the city officials to what would be appropriate. And, but certainly, I don't think we're talking all the way to Memorial. Don't get, not that kind of a distance. But 6 to 10 blocks away from the gate.
Because that will kind of put you in a pickle, because Lamar State, they sell food, and Lamar State College, and they sell, and they have these little support groups. So if we, want to put a buffer area,
we weren't considering that far, but to answer that, they are on private property, so they're exempted.
And then that'll lead to my next question: individuals that have property and they go and get that $10 permit. So could we legally stop them from actually? I mean, we have our subject matter experts here, so maybe they can answer that question for me. But I think Councilman Duce was alluding to what I was saying. If somebody wants private property and they get that $10 permit, would they still be able to sell legally? Can we say, hey, because you live in a 10-mile radius, you can't sell on your property? I'm just kind of want to make sure that we cover it, because this council, we're going to discuss these things, and we need to know all the information to make those decisions.
I think that's where an additional fee would come in, whether it's in the event zone or whether it's part of the Mardi Gras festivities, things like that. When we started 27 years ago and we wrote the ordinance with City Council's help and, your leadership, we never dreamed that it was going to develop into that. We were green. We had no clue. And we wrote it to protect citizens and to be safe, and we thought of all those things, and we wanted people there, and we still want people there. So it is a fine line to walk, and we understand that. But on the other hand, if we go away, if we can't sustain our investment in our activities, then we can't do it, at a loss every year. The funds will run out.
I think the main thing that I would say is that if outside the gates there's allowed to be the same type of competition for the patron as inside the gates, if we're doing that and they don't have to pay a fee to come in for the protection, that's where it really hurts Mardi Gras. That's, we spend a lot of money over the years. It takes well over $100,000 before the first ticket's sold to have everything in place to put on Mardi Gras. And if folks don't have to spend that kind of money and they can just set up and offer the same services in a sense. I mean, I could see someone throwing up a bandstand on a piece of private property, and there's just things that I don't know how far the law can go with that. I do know in several of the ordinances when they talk about these zones, they talk about selling on private property as part of the ordinance itself, and they are legislating that to a degree for the event, not for any other time, but for the event itself. Who knows? That's why we want to work with the city. We believe that, that if we do that together, we can come up with something that can protect Mardi Gras, save our interest, and ensure that Mardi Gras, that for the next 25 years is celebrated right down there where we want to be. That's the first thing. We want to be down there.
Yeah.
That's where we want to be.
Well, Tim, and I agree. I want the Mardi Gras to stay locally here in Port Arthur, and I do think we should have some type of buffer area zone that we need to circumference the main event. But at the same time, I just want to make sure that we do everything legally, that it doesn't come back on these group of people that's sitting up here, and then we have to explain that in a different, side. So I really agree that we do need this buffer area zone, and we need to address some of those issues. Now, you mentioned earlier about selling alcohol outside the gate. Do we have any reports from the police department or from you guys to state that? Because this is the first time I've ever heard that.
Yeah.
Well, I think that the police has.
Don Ware,
Our next speaker.
Don Waring,
Okay.
has set up. Their group does the ticket collecting at the front gate, and he has told of times where people have brought beer up to the gate, and of course they won't let them come in, but they ask them, "Where did you get that?" Because they got a single beer. Oh, we bought it out there. So they've freely given that information.
Oh.
And we've mentioned it to TABC, and they have told us that if they had the manpower, they would try to make it there to control it and see where they could discover where it's at. That hasn't happened yet. Of course, last year was a terrible year with the rain. So
Okay.
we'll be asking them again to come out and apply the same rules on outside as they do on us inside. I think that, we can't specifically say where it came from, but we know it came from outside.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Tim.
Councilman Jones.
Yeah, good morning, Tim.
Good morning.
Fellow Torman. Yeah, you and I discussed this issue at our luncheon, when we met about a month ago, and I told you I was concerned about your concerns, and you have my attention. And I think if I'm correct, Mayor, maybe we might have to call a workshop or something, discuss this, something of that nature. It needs some fine tuning. It won't be an easy deal. We have some challenges. We're going to offend somebody one way or the other, how this thing may go. So I told you I'll discuss with the mayor and the council and the city manager and legal, and I think we need to do that, to kind of fine tune a little bit more and discuss it more before we make a determination. We have to next January, so we have a while yet. So, but we need to, start discussing right now pretty much, but it needs a little work, and I understand your concern. It makes sense because the people on the outside getting the same police protection, ambulance services, cleanup for a lot less than what you all paying. So they're getting some good deals, you know. But yes, some of that property. How far can we go with this thing, you know? So we're gonna look at it real hard, Tim. Give you my word with the council, full council, and legal city manager, and we'll try to make it right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Tim, thank you so much. I have no other lights. I will say this, though, what the property owners have to understand is that if Mardi Gras goes away, there is no opportunity for you to sell anything on your property. So, you know, that is what, at the end of the day, we have to understand that it's a team effort. But then also, we have property owners that the only time their property is profitable downtown is during Mardi Gras. So, you know, again, it's I don't want to take that from them, because we have people saying, okay, I want to buy a lot downtown so I could do parking during Mardi Gras once a year, you know, or so I just want to make sure that we're still open for business, letting folks know we're not trying to shut things down, but we want to be conscious of the things and the efforts that you guys are doing. So whatever we can do, I think the workshop is an excellent idea. Possibly we can pull in some of these property owners and let them understand we all got to work together so it stays afloat.
And one last thing I'd like to say is that we have, in all of this, the one thing we do not want to do is restrict anybody's ability to stand on the street and watch the parade.
Yeah.
The parade is the most exciting thing, and it really makes this event go. And we want as many people to experience it outside the gates, the parades, because once they do, they're going to be wanting to come inside the gates.
Yeah.
So nothing we do, we want to restrict the citizens' ability to come and watch, for no cost, watch that parade on the street.
Good. Thank you. Councilwoman Moses.
Thank you so much for your presentation. It was amazing. We thank God for Mardi Gras. I remember when it first started, I was working here at the city. It was really, really amazing. And you all have come a very long way, so thank you for what you've placed into the city of Port Arthur. I think I recommend maybe our city staff, our manager is probably overwhelmed now, but if maybe the staff or the city attorney and they get together, look at the ordinances and bring us a recommendation as a council. I don't know if that's something, I know the council said a workshop, but they may be able to work through the legal loopholes prior to us, before coming to us, so we'll know what purview we have to work within. So that, to me, would be something that's, well, you can do this, you can't do this, prior to us just having a workshop, and we really kind of have to go back to them. So I would just say if they could come and bring us some recommendations and some options, maybe that this is what we can and cannot do. I just would recommend us work that way if the manager and city attorney would be able to work with us in that manner.
We certainly don't expect this to be done by tomorrow. And
Thank you. Well, you're early, so that's good. Early is good. Thank you.
I have one more light. Councilman Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. How much has the cost hurt you all for these vendors being right outside the gate?
I can't speak to an exact number, but what I can tell you is that we've seen our attendance slowly drop, which affects revenue. We've also had vendors that, like I had a vendor that had been with me 25 years and wrote me a very nice letter and said how much he enjoyed Port Arthur, how much he enjoyed the event, but he couldn't make a profit any longer, so he was going to have to withdraw. I see some of my vendors that were inside the gate in previous years outside the gate. So basing it on all those things and seeing the number that keeps increasing each year, I have to think it's a substantial amount.
So you had vendors that was inside the gate, left from being inside, and went outside the gate?
Yes, the vendor fee inside is $950, but with that they get electricity and water and protection, advertising, all of those factors. Outside, it's $10.
Okay.
It's not rocket science why
So
somebody would move.
So you lost vendors also? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much.
I have no other lights. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you very much. Really do appreciate it.
Yes. All right, our next speaker of the morning is Mr. Don Varing of the Port Arthur Sertoma Organization regarding Mardi Gras 2019. Good morning, Mr. Don.
Good morning. My name is Don Varing, and I reside at 6273 Adams in Groves, Texas. And I'm here to represent Mardi Gras and Port Arthur Sertoma clubs. We have two Sertoma clubs that are involved in Mardi Gras, and both of them benefit quite a bit. But not only do they benefit, the less fortunate in this community benefit quite a bit from it. Mardi Gras is a fundraiser for Sertoma. That's the bottom line. And each Sertoma organization has a club sponsorship program where they provide funds to organizations, nonprofit organizations, and help people in the community. And I just wanted to give you an idea or a little perspective of what Sertoma does with the funds that they get from Mardi Gras. Port Arthur Evening Sertoma. I'm not going to talk about Port Arthur Sertoma. I know we have members here of that organization, but Port Arthur Evening Sertoma, we give out 5 memorial scholarships a year to graduating high school students to get them started and furthering their education. We give out 2 major scholarships to Lamar University on speech and hearing to graduate students. We also help the Kaplan Center. We provide them with funds, plus we help try to achieve getting grants to help renew their equipment as needed. And then we sponsor the Kaplan Center, the Salvation Army, the United Board of Missions, Meals on Wheels, and Relay for Life, and I could go on and on. But we do this with the funds that we receive from Mardi Gras. And the more we get, the more we can bring back to the community. And that's really all I have to say, and I appreciate the time that you guys have allowed me to come up here and talk.
Yes, sir. We appreciate you and appreciate all the work, too, Mr. Barron.
Okay.
Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here this morning.